Thanks, Con Pizza. Can you please hold?
For the man whose story you're about to hear, they are 2 phone calls from the worst day of his life.
They were already on top of me, kicking me and punching me. They wanted my money, they wanted my car. The whole time I'm yelling for help, and no one is able to hear me, apparently.
911, what's your emergency?
Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get to the next day, to take care of your family. There's some people out there that want to take that from you, and it's not right.
For pizza delivery driver Scott Parsons, the 2nd of May in 2010 begins as just another day on the job, and a slow one at that.
I was out on a delivery at the time, so I didn't know what calls were coming in. We'd send the other driver home because it was kind of slow and I could handle it.
Then a call just after 9 o'clock sends Scott on a 10-minute drive north of Rapid City.
Will this order be for carry-out or delivery?
To a secluded trailer park on the outskirts of town.
Got the delivery, got in my car and drove out here just like any other time. So I've been out there, hundreds of times.
When he arrives, he is met by 3 men who direct him to a different address than the one he'd been given, to a darkened house near the end of a street.
The trailer was dark. There wasn't a street light or anything. And I go to get out of my car and something just didn't seem right. So I get up on the steps and I proceed to tell the guy, how much the pizza was. And he looks at me and he says, "Do you got that money?"
Unbeknownst to Scott, this customer had called with a special request. They wanted to make sure their driver carried enough cash to break a $100 bill, for reasons that were about to become all too clear.
He took one last drag of a cigarette, I remember, and he flicked it into the yard. And then he just swung at me, and I ducked, and he caught me on the top of my head. And it was at that point I was like, oh, I'm in a lot of trouble.
In a panicked rush to escape, Scott lunges off the front porch, landing badly on his right knee, shattering his leg.
And my right knee hit the ground hard enough that it broke my femur in half, both ways, up and down and across. I didn't have time to register what just happened because they were already on top of me, kicking me and punching me. They wanted my money, they wanted my car. The whole time I'm yelling for help, and no one is able to hear me, apparently.
Now at the full mercy of his attackers, Scott says the next several minutes are lost in a haze. A flurry of kicks and punches to his head, and screams for help as he tried desperately to crawl back to his car.
And I remember laying there, and the one guy kicked me in the face under my left eye really hard, and I started to see stars. And I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through this. I was like, I don't want my son to wake up tomorrow without his dad.
And in that single thought, Scott finds the strength for a decision that will save his life and leave it forever changed.
So I leaned back on my back, and I reached into my right pocket and I pulled out my gun, and there was a guy right in front of me, and I just pointed it at him and I pulled the trigger and I shot twice. And it was over. That's all that it took. Those guys trying to take my life is very selfish and it's just, there's no reason for that kind of behavior. I have a family to take care of, and for them to try and take that away from my son is unacceptable, and I wasn't going to tolerate that. So I had only one option at that point, was to pull my gun and shoot, and which I did, and it stopped the situation instantly.
The gun, a 9mm compact pistol, that Scott always carries with him. The gun he had slipped into his pocket just before getting out of his car. A decision he now credits with saving his life.
They ran at that point, and the one kid had a bullet wound, so apparently his parents noticed that he was shot and then took him to the hospital, in which case they called the police on their son.
911, what's your emergency?
Him and me were both in the hospital at the same time, but I didn't know it at the time.
After weeks in the hospital to fix that badly broken right leg, Scott's troubles were far from over. Though police found he'd acted purely in self-defense, he was fired from his job. Terminated by Pizza Hut over a policy prohibiting delivery drivers from carrying guns in their cars or weapons of any kind.
Thank you for calling Pizza. Can you please hold?
Pizza Hut refused to comment on Scott's case or on their policy that they say justified his termination. A policy that, if he'd followed, Scott says would have kept his job, but cost him his life.
They terminated me, in which case I believe that they fired me over, one of my amendment rights as a United States citizen. I should not have been let go. Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to get to the next day, to take care of your family. Because there's some people out there that want to take that from you, and it's not right.